again. So yeah, start talking Polish. Give me lots of suka.
Jak so masz? Dziękuję. My name
Ale
is
jesteś chuj.
Etienne.
Ale jesteś
Yes.
chuj. Chuj.
Yeah,
Chuj.
yeah.
On jest chuj.
Kocham cię.
Kocham cię. Kocham cię.
Kocham.
Damn it again. Every time. This is All Games Go to Heaven, Episode 10, Shadow of the Colossus. All right. Loosen up. I haven't been up since 4:30 this morning. Woo! Woo! Wu-Tang for life, killer bees. Hey, Steve. How's it going?
Okay, I think. How you doing there, bud?
Good, good. This is a pretty exciting episode, because why?
We made it to episode 10, our season 1 finale. Are you miming, or did your audio cut out?
My audio probably cut out, but I was also going very, very quiet. Like, I was going very quiet. Yeah, I was like a pow, 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 pow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you're loud enough, the pals work.
Yeah. Honestly, man, but I'm honestly just proud of us. 10 episodes. We started this off as like just a joyride, hoping to see where we'd end up, and here we are.
I'm more impressed that we don't hate each other's guts after doing this 10 times.
No, I mean, we got through the controversial episodes we thought we were going to want to kill each other through, and then, like, apparently the indie episode last time was the one where really the fireworks were ready to go off, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming either. I wasn't expecting to have such a strong negative reaction to something that seemed right up my alley.
Yeah, I just never thought you'd hate something more than Zelda, and I have that now entombed forever. Like it's recorded for life, and you said it.
Yeah. That's I don't know why that's like such a win for you. I'd be happy about it, sure, but it doesn't make Zelda any better. Or Ocarina of Time.
I don't know.
Doesn't make Ocarina of Time any better.
It's not the smelliest piece of shit in the pile, so that does make me feel better.
A turd is a turd, man.
A turd is a turd? Nah, the smelliest turd is the smelliest turd. Let me tell you. Okay.
But we have the complete opposite of a turd for our season finale. I'm excited to talk about this one. I genuinely am. I'm really excited to talk about this one. But for once, I think out of all the games we've talked about, this is one that you introduced me to. It's
really?
not one that we discovered together or that I showed you. You showed me this game.
What? Dude, you're blowing my
You don't
mind
remember?
right now. No, I mean, yeah, I remember when I was introduced to this game, but I just I don't really remember the fact. I thought maybe it was on your radar and I just pushed you over the edge more so than anything.
I'd only heard of it.
Sure.
I'd never played any of the games made by this studio, which I'll let you introduce.
Yeah.
But so I knew the name, and I had sort of heard that like, oh, this is it, this is amazing, and blah blah blah. But it was never like a really convincing argument or something that I paid much attention to. And then we were talking about it, and you convinced me.
And what game are we talking about?
Shadows of the Colossus, yes, the one that you have a beautiful poster of in the back.
For all our podcast listeners who can't see, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a custom piece of artwork. Shadow of the Colossus, actually.
Is it not plural?
No. I always make that mistake too. That's why I keep in our group chats keep correcting it to shadow and not shadows.
Oh, I never noticed that you were taking the S off.
Well, because I felt like an idiot. I kept like writing it as Shadows of the Colossus, and then one day I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's Shadow of the Colossus, which is a great title nevertheless.
You know what we did is we pulled the immigrant move, like our buddy Vish when he used to call Hell on Wheels, Hells on Wheels.
It's true. Well, I am an immigrant, and you're kind of an immigrant.
Immigrant parents.
Yeah, immigrant parents. You're second gen immigrant. I'm first gen. I'm straight up immigrant.
Yeah, yeah. So that means I don't have an excuse, and you do, and you're the one not making the mistake. So
Yeah, it's true. It's
I'm
true.
still getting thrown under the bus.
Yeah, and with my proper diction, when a war breaks out that'll eventually put immigrants into kick us out of the country or something, it'll be me with my proper diction that gets kicked out before you. So just remember
No,
that.
you'll get to stay. Because they'll say, "Can I see your passports?" And you'll say, "No, this is my passport." And they go, "Oh,
Oh,
this guy,
he
this
must
guy's
have.
staying. This guy's
But
staying."
this son of a bitch, he's going. He's going. He's out of here. He's out of here. All right. All right. So I guess the game I
Weird
introduced to
tangent.
Steve, yeah, weird tangent, but the game I introduced to Steve is called Shadow of the Colossus. And this is a game that originally came out in 2005 and had a remake in 2018. But the developers, Team Ico, which is a branch of Japan Studios of Sony Interactive Entertainment, they pretty much stayed pretty true to it. Changed a couple things aesthetically and up the graphics and whatnot, but it's been pretty true to it ever since. Team Ico was originally founded by a gentleman named Fumito Udeo. Udea.
Ueda.
Ueda. Yeah, Fumito Ueda. I should know that with how much anime I've watched. And pretty much what I've always loved since the very beginning of when I heard about the studio, because these guys were pretty much known for developing a game called Ico. And Ico was a game that was both minimalist and what some people quoted as video games as art or art as video games. And that always compelled me because even when I got into Shadow of the Colossus, they very much stayed true to that. It's a minimalist game in regards to just what you have to do in the game, what you have to explore, how much they're stuffing into you. It's a minimalist, like not too much, I don't know, static or visual content striking you, but what's there is so well honed and so artistic and so beautiful. And so this studio really from day one said, this is something we want to do. And so Ico was their first release, Shadow of the Colossus was their second, and their third was called The Last Guardian, which they were kind of passing it off to another branch of their studio, or I guess they just weren't involved until the very end, but it still stayed true to that very same concept of minimalist gameplay, beautiful story, narrative, very simple, and just kind of keeping it beautiful, keeping it as artwork. And that is something that from day one is the whole reason this game sucked me. And the very first time I even saw an image of this thing, I was like, wow, what is this? This looks beautiful. This looks fantastic. But yeah. Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
Team Ico.
I think of any game I've ever played, Shadow of the Colossus and The Last Guardian, because I've never played Eco, and this studio probably make the best case for video games being art. Uh, there's definitely still something you can play, but it's just the whole time it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, even on I played the PS2 version. I think you played the remaster, right?
Yep. Yep.
So PS2 graphics were amazing at the time. By today's standards, they're not great, but even replaying it on PS2, going around these vistas and seeing all the different colossi, like it was still it was beautiful. It was great. I never felt like this is so ugly. Like I
Yeah.
can't play this because
Yeah.
of the old graphics. Like no, they picked a style. It looks great. It held up 19 years later. Like I can't believe this is from 2005. They did it's video game is art. Yeah, very
Well,
strong case.
because I think when you have a very beautiful honed palette to begin with, and I can think of other games that make me feel this way too. You don't need to worry about the constant upgrading. Like even with The Last of Us 1, they remastered it, sure, but people who replayed the original one are still just like, wow, what a freaking game, For me, you don't feel this way. Ocarina of Time also feels like this at times. I know. Don't even get into it. I know, don't get into it. But, for me, another version, which we'll talk about eventually, but like even with Mass Effect, that one was one where when I go back and play the original version of it before the remaster, it's just like it's still beautiful. Like you're running on the planets, and they did such a good job with the rotoscoping artwork that it's just like, wow. Like it doesn't matter how many iterations of the console get upgraded. Like I'm always blown away by it.
Yeah, I think like PS4 to PS5 or this generation has seen like the least amount of like really noticeable change in
Yeah.
visual fidelity. And when they're doing these remasters, they're adding, HDRs and ray tracing and, updating the faces a bit, but the PS4 versions of most games look pretty damn good,
Yeah.
especially when they're going for that photoreal style. Like we were already kind of there. It's just now it's like a matter of crisping up the edges kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's only going to continue to improve. Like the you know PS1 and PS2 to some degree, PlayStation 3, like those generations of consoles, anything that was going for photoreal kind of has suffered, and that's what doesn't look good. But when you picked a style and stuck to it, that has stood the test of time, at least in my experience, in
100%.
terms of aging graphics. And there's only like there's the in this game there's the main character, which is our hero. I don't know his name.
Wander.
There's
Wander.
Wander.
Yeah.
What a great name. Very, very fitting for this. And there's the woman he's trying to rescue. And then
Mono.
you don't really
Mono.
Mono. I'm
Great
glad you
job
know
with
the
the
name.
story so far. Great job with it.
I'm not trying to summarize the story. I'm just trying to make a point of like there's two people for 98% of this
Yeah.
game. That's all you really see, and they look fine. Because they kind of look like anime characters almost.
Yeah.
It's not like they didn't try to do what I think like Max Payne did, for example, where they took a picture of somebody's face and then they pasted it onto a model. Like, it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't look good. It's just okay. Give them the anime face and it still looks great.
Yeah, yeah, and to expand on Steve's point, because he started on the story here, the story of Shadow of the Colossus, because we're here, we might as well.
We might as well. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, is about a boy named Wander or a man named Wander. It's very ambiguous. Like so much of the story is so simple that it's open to so much translation, and it's about a boy named Wander who's taking this dead woman named Mono, this princess named Mono, or you assume a princess named Mono. You don't know whether it's your sister, your girlfriend, or anything really,
No.
and all you were introduced to is them riding on Wander's horse, Agro, as he calls out all the time, Agro, Agro. But they come to this forbidden land where there is a singular temple and ruled by a god named Dormin. And pretty much all the story is about is Wander begging Dormin because he heard that Dormin might have the power of resurrection to bring back Mono. And they strike a deal. And all Wander has to do is slay the 16 colossi to bring back her soul, or so you hope. And along the way, we probably will spoil along the way, but I'm not going to say it yet. The story sort of unfolds into a bit of a darker turn and sort of the bleaker underbelly of what Dormin is actually asking you to do.
So you're kind of, I think, already alluding to what's coming. And I mean, the game's almost 20 years old, so I think we can just sort of jump into spoilers.
Sure.
I'm not going to outright state it, but Dorman, I mean, there's very little dialogue, right? You
Yeah.
strike the deal. Dorman tells you, okay, go do this, and then every time you succeed, you come back. He tells you about the next one. He gives you a little bit of information, and then you're off on your way. At any point, did you think that? Or okay,
Did I hope?
try to phrase it. Wait, I'll try to phrase it less less direct. What was your first impression of Dorman when you're hearing that voice speak?
Well, my biggest thing is that this game does an amazing job creating a sense of godliness to Dormin. Like they create this throughout the entire game, from whenever you kill a Colossus and you end up getting
Yep.
sucked back into the void of sort of you just get transported back to the temple. That's all. You just get transported back to the temple. There's always this sense of some sort of supernatural otherness, this bigger part of something that's like you might have hope that this god has power to bring back Mono, because it seems like it. It seems like, okay, indifferent of what you know about Dormin, you don't know much, because even the thing is with Team Ico, they're obsessed, or Team Ico, they're obsessed even in Ico of creating languages that don't actually exist. So throughout the game, there's actually little splinters of like, or specks of another language, and you don't know what the hell they're saying. They translate it for you at points, but beyond that, you don't actually know what they're saying. So, there's so much mystery that I was sucked up in the hope, because they make the game throughout it seem so beautiful with the closer you get to the resurrection.
So, I mean, for me, the first time I played this, and then even more so, I guess the second time, because I know what's going on. Like, compare Wander's voice
Yeah.
to Dorman's voice.
Yeah.
So when you hear Wander speak, if I was blindfolded, I'd be like, okay, this just it seems like some young guy, he's desperate, but there's nothing like antagonistic or scary about it. And then you hear Dorman's voice, and it's layered, right? There's that really deep male voice, and then there's the female voice underneath. So it makes it ambiguous, but it's still there's nothing like peaceful or serene when he's speaking. It's super intimidating anytime Dorman is speaking. And you could argue that's just what it would feel like for a regular mortal to be speaking with a god.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
to me, the first time I was like, something seems up with this dude.
Well, I mean, and that was, I don't remember what exactly they said when I was researching about the development of this game. They sort of said something along the lines of, in fact, even when they were talking about the ending, they were talking about how they wanted, at first, they had a happier ending, right? I'm not going to say it. Again, this is not yet at the spoiler, but they had a happier ending. But the entire team from that moment was like, no, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. We need to give like a bit of a darker ending to this. And so I think all throughout it, you probably had all these voices in from the development team saying, let's make this a little darker. Let's make this a little more cruel. But the supernatural, I mean, this is kind of one of the reasons why, the story spoke to me so much, because I've always believed that the supernatural is, or should be, horrific to the corporeal individuated being, like the soul looking up at the God that it is divided from should feel horrified at this thing that its mind can't even grasp. So to me, it was always like I came into this game with this notion that the supernatural or the godly should be horrific. It shouldn't be. Can be beautifying and transcendent, but it can also be like, for the mind trying to understand it, the individuated mind. It is like, wow, I can't process this infinity into my brain. It's destroying me. And to me, all along the way, they really capture that in every sense.
Yeah, so I mean, that's sort of what I said is
Yeah.
maybe that's the vibe that they were going for. I mean, the way you describe it is very Lovecraftian, and it's even more bleak. The image that we're, or I guess the way we're used to being presented, the divine, at least when it's non-antagonistic, is much more peaceful.
In the
So
West, yeah. In the West.
in the West, sure.
Yeah.
Even in the East,
Sure.
I would say even in a lot of anime, it's not something where there's a difference between for not comprehending and like horror
Yeah.
at
Sure.
that
Sure.
incomprehension, right? But who's to say? Who's to say what their intention was? Anyway, so he tells you, like you were saying, he tells you need to go out, and there's 16 of these things. And the first thing you do, you get on your horse again, you ride out of the temple, and you hold up the sword,
Yeah.
because that's the only way you can navigate. There is a map, but there's no checkpoints. There's no like line to show you where you go. You hold up your sword in light, and then you focus the beam, and then that's the general direction you have to go. So even getting to where you need to go, especially in the later Colossi, is a bit of a puzzle in itself. But that whole time, you're just riding through this beautiful landscape, and it's beautiful and horrifying at the same time, because other than little shrines popped around and the bird that soars with you as you're riding aggro, which was always a really great moment, it's not really anything. This whole place is barren.
Yeah.
There's some areas might have some trees, but some grass here, but there's no life. There's no
No,
life.
I agree, but that's kind of where that vastness and that scale they created, it blows my mind that holds up for you playing the PS2 version, that you still felt
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh yeah. And the first Colossi that you get to, it's a really great introduction. You see him sort of stumbling from the distance, and he gets closer, and you're this big, and he's way bigger than you.
Yeah.
You don't even come up to its knees, kind of thing. And it's the smallest one, other than the two like ones that are like bulls. And you're just like, how can there be 16 of creatures this size, and I can be riding aggro for like 5-10 minutes, and there's just nothingness with
I know.
with creatures this big roaming the lands. Like, it's crazy.
Well, it does truly. They do truly create like a valley of the gods. Because if there was a valley of the gods, it would be this vast. It would be this expansive. And these creatures that. What's crazy is that standing next to the terrain, they're normal sized. But you, as this little human coming from your human world from outside the Forbidden Lands, to you, it's like, oh my god, like what is this? What? So hold on. While we're here, though, I mean, because there's no wrong direction to this thing. What? Can you remember your first feeling when you first saw that first Colossus?
The first, it was a long time ago. It's got to just be as crass as it's going to be, like a holy shit moment, you know? And like I was sort of saying, the first one is essentially the smallest one.
Yeah.
And you fight this thing, you're you're trying to get it to come down so you can get to its weak spot. You climb its leg, you're hanging on for dear life, which is the main mechanic of the shadow. Is you have to find these things weak spot, you have to find a way to get onto them, and you have a stamina meter so that when you're on them, you're holding on because they're trying to shake you off, and that stamina meter is going less and less and less, and if it depletes, like, you get thrown off, and you get chucked. And that happened to me a couple
Yeah.
times in this one. Like, you get
Yeah.
chucked. If it wasn't a video game, that would just be like instant death. But they chuck you in good ways. So you like fighting that first one and you taking it down. Like, it was this like crazy sigh of relief. And then you go to the next one, and it's just towering over you. And then that was the moment in the game where I was like, oh my god, like, what did I get into? Like, how is this little pathetic human the size of like this thing's toenail, even if that, like, how am I supposed to deal with this
Yeah.
15 more times? Like, it's nuts.
Well, and on top of that too, because I do remember that too. It's like, oh my god, they only get bigger from here after you see the second one. But it's also crazy the way that they make you use your weapons more and more to get these colossi into different positions, because like it's not as easy. Even like you go from the first one where you might be able to find its weak spots, and like you've got to find kind of solve the puzzle to get up it. It's like it's crazy the risks you have to get into to start opening up some of these sensitive spots just to get them to like fall for a second, just so you could climb up a part of their leg. That isn't even. That's just the start of the puzzle. That's just the start of
Yeah.
the puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, the second one, you have to essentially be underneath it with this thing that
Yeah.
could crush you easily with one foot, so
Yeah.
that you can shoot it with a bow and arrow under the leg so that it, takes a kneel. And then you can start the climb. And while you're climbing, it's trying to shake you off. You have to time your moments. If you don't, you're coming off. And then when you finally get to the top, like, it's not all the time where you'll climb it and you can sort of like have
Yeah.
a sigh of relief,
Yeah.
get your stamina back, try and find the weak spot, and start stabbing it. Sometimes they just keep shaking.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
especially
there
with
is
the
no
latter
safe
ones.
zone.
Yeah, and the
Oh
latter
my
ones
god,
gets
yeah.
fucking crazy because, like, on top of that too, like, I find it very clever the way they created smaller areas for you to grasp onto. Because, like, in the beginning, there's like they'll put little pieces of platforms on the colossi where like you can stand for a second, you could regen your stamina because it's really low. On the next one, maybe they'll have a flat spot on their back. Which even the developers said they're like they want an arm to be like, oh, you can run across it like you run across it like you run across the ground, right? And so you have a second to like rebuild your stamina, but later on you get to these narrow heads and you get to these little dangly arms where there's nowhere for you to collect your stamina. You just gotta hope you get to
Yeah.
that sensitive spot fast enough. And what's crazy is apparently on hard mode, because I've only played this on normal, there's more vital points because it's easier to die, and there's more vital points because they
Making them harder to kill.
Yeah, they make the health meters huge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So this is something I wanted to mention to you because I thought you did play this on hard, or you were going
I
for
was
the
going to.
challenge
I
or
was
something
going
to
to.
get. This is not a game that I can replay twice, like back to back. Because as soon as you beat it, it's like, okay, hard mode and time attack and this and that. After finishing this game, I have no desire to like immediately go back into it. Like it's
Yeah.
such you have been on such a journey, and like I would even say physically and emotionally, that to jump back into it right after completing it is a hard no for me.
And what's crazy is that there's a deeper game to this game because we're talking about the base mechanics here, but in your first playthrough, all you can really do, the only life that you see outside of these colossi and yourself, like Wander and Aguro, is like you said, you go to these shrines where there's these little lizards with blue tails
Hmm.
you have to kill, and you eat their tails and it raises your stamina meter. Or you find fruits on trees and you knock
Yeah.
those down, you eat them. So the only life outside of yourself are things that help you get stronger. But what's crazy is when I was reading online, it's only at the third and fourth playthrough that apparently the game really opens up to the deeper game. Where, yeah, so time attack starts to open up a lot of things. So time attack, every single, if you played on normal versus on hard, the number of colossi you kill on time attack expands your weapons. So then you start getting explosive arrows, you get a harpoon of thunder, you get things where you don't even need to climb the colossi anymore. Like you can go up to Colossus and you can literally just use your harpoon of thunder to hit their vitals on certain points and have to limit yourself. So then when you climb it, you maybe only have to go for its head because you've gotten all the torso ones with your new weapons. Or,
Oh,
yeah, and so then there's cloaks of might, there's swords of might, all ending with the final one, which is like the queen's sword or something like that. And the queen's sword is supposed to be the strongest in the game. And not only that, but apparently the ultimate version of the game is on the fourth playthrough, I think. You've collected enough. You've collected enough. I don't know what it is. I guess stamina, because it's on New Game Plus. You keep rolling forward your stamina, where you can actually climb the main temple you start at to get to what's called the Forbidden Garden on top. And at the Forbidden Garden, there is a fruit you can eat that takes away all your stamina and all your health to the smallest shrivel. And they say that's the ultimate way to play. It's like that is the ultimate gameplay experience where you eat the forbidden
uh,
fruit and it just makes your stamina and your health so small that for the rest of the game, like you have to try and beat it with after eating the forbidden
you have
fruit.
to be you have to be perfect.
You have to be perfect. Crazy, eh?
Yeah, it's cool that that's there. That's really interesting. I don't
I
think
don't
that's
want to
something
do
I'm
it.
ever gonna.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it,
this
but I
isn't.
researched it.
Yeah, like this isn't as stupid as this sentence is gonna sound. This isn't a game I want to gamify. I just want to have the experience.
Yeah, I mean like so okay. What was you had your first holy shit moment with this game, right? When you first saw the first Colossus. What was like tell me about your first feeling. Like you get through the shock and the awe. And at what point did you get an impression of the game and what was your first kind of impression? Besides just holy shit.
Okay. Uh, I think you know the answer. Even if you don't think you do, you probably do. It's the fifth Colossus, which is the bird.
Okay, okay.
So you go into you ride aggro. If I'm remembering correctly, you get to essentially what looks like a lake, but you can't get him in there. So you have to get off him. You jump into the lake. You swim under like a big metal gate that spans the width of like the canyon, and then you come out, and eventually, as you swim in deeper, it triggers, and you just see this massive bird.
Yeah.
Just, but
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It is truly a beautiful creature, just soaring and lands on a perch. And then here you are, little Wander. You stand on a platform, and this thing is looking at you. I know what I have to do, right? I know what I have to do, but I don't want to do it because this creature was like majestic. It was great, and by this point, you're starting to get a sense like something is up because you've killed four of these things already. Every time you do, these black tentacles come out of the corpse of the Colossus, and it seems like they go through you or something like that, and you pass out, and then you wake up in the temple. And every time you do, there's another spirit there. So if you've killed three of them, there's three spirits there. Four spirits. So, I'm on number five. It's the bird. I'm starting to have a sense of something's up. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it's starting to not feel right. And then you have to shoot an arrow at the bird to piss it off. And then he swoops down towards you, and your move is to jump up and just let him catch you with his wing. And then you just start soaring. And the sense of speed, even on the PS2, they did a really good job with making these particles sort of move past you, so it looks like you're flying really freaking fast, which you would be on something of this size when it's flapping its wings and turning. And that whole fight, the first time I played it, I think I took like half an hour on purpose because I was just so blown away with how beautiful this moment was. This time, because we need to get through it so we can talk about it, it was probably one of the quickest ones that I did just because I know it so well, and it's not a super challenging one, but it still breaks my heart. It breaks my heart every time I got to take that thing down.
It's crazy.
And that's sort of the moment where I'm like, okay, I'm playing something pretty special here.
Well, it's crazy that you say it was easy for you to figure out, because that one actually was the first real puzzle for me. Was that one, because I couldn't figure out. Because like in his territory or his domain, there are these towers and there's these flat spots on the base of the water where like little platforms you hop across, where you have to get down for him to swoop at you. But I was trying to do it from the top of the towers, and nothing was nothing was happening to me. And I remember swimming around that lake for 30, 40 minutes, because also it was beautiful. Like I was like, I don't mind this. Like this is kind of transcendent. Like it's gorgeous just watching this thing fly around. And it took me a little while before I realized, like, okay, it comes down, but it comes down low, so I got to get lower. Where do I go?
Yeah.
And then I figured out those flat spots, and then you jump on it, and you're right. And it's like you got to hope you hold on. And I don't think you can do it without falling off once.
I
think
I did. I think I did just 'cause I think when you do, because it's his two wings, like the edge of his two wings, and then somewhere in the middle, when you do one of his wings, he starts really freaking out and, like doing barrel rolls and stuff. And at that point, you haven't found enough lizard tails to have like a lot of stamina to hold on until he levels out again. So I had to do it twice.
Yeah.
I had to do it twice. And I don't know what it is about that one specifically that just like clicked. The very first one, when I was playing it this time, took me forever.
Really?
Yeah. So this was like, it was frustrating me. It was frustrating me. So I knew exactly what I had to do at first, because he has that spot on his calf that's like it's glowing, but it's not a vital spot. Sure. So I hit the calf, because you can hold on and you can stab the calf. I'm like, great. And then the first time you do it, the camera cuts to the front of him and really focuses on his arm, which is furry and has a couple little platforms on it. So I was jumping off his leg, trying to get to his arm and trying to climb up his arm, and it wasn't working. And I was just like, what the F? Why are you showing me the arm if I'm not supposed to climb the arm? It turns out you just keep going up his leg and up to his back. You climb his butt, and then you're on his back, and it's right there. Like, it was super easy once you know what to do, but I was like, why the fuck did the camera cut to his arm? Like, why? So I got stuck on that one for a while, and there's a few that took me a while to figure out and to try and remember.
Same. Even though I've played it like now 3 or 4 times, this game I never get bored of it. I can't play immediately back to back. Like, I also was like, maybe I should just play this on hard mode, but I was like, but I want to get good footage, and I want to be in control of the footage for the gameplay, for our gameplay video, since I have the enhanced 2018 remaster copy. I was like, I want to make sure I get good cinematic footage. Like, I want to be able to ride aggro and run around and get like good crisp footage. So I was like, if I'm on hard mode, I'm just gonna be worried about insta-death, right? Because it is like insta-death. And there would have been a couple times on a couple of the Colossus where I would have had insta-death if I had been playing on hard. Who knows if I would have even finished the game, especially by the time you get to the 16th and the fucking puzzle that is. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, that one...
I think you would have. I think you would have finished it.
I would have, but like I would have probably tried to collect more lizard tails. I probably would have gone for more health. Like, I would have gone for a lot of the bonus features. But all this to say, I also struggled with a few of them, even knowing the case. You know what I mean? Like, some of them were still puzzles to me.
So the first time I played, and I remember you telling me this like a couple years after I'd finished it, I didn't know about the lizard tails and I didn't know about the fruit. Okay. So I went through my entire first playthrough without upgrading either of those things. It was brutal.
Damn.
And then this time, because I knew about it, like I was just by the end, like I think by like the 12th one or something like that, I just they couldn't get me off.
Yeah.
There's no way for them to get me off. And
Yeah.
then I had so much health. Uh, so knowing that is, oh, excuse me, a bit of a game changer. But let me ask you the same question you asked me. What was your moment in this game where you were just like, oh,
Well, from the very beginning, actually, I read something that'll tie in at the end very well to my actual overall experience or my oh moment. Was the first time I played this game. I also saw that first Colossus, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like they did it. They took something out of my dreams and they made it a reality. Like I can't believe games can do this. Like I finally like something that is blowing my mind and will be impressed on my soul for the rest of time. If seeing that first Colossus the first time, shooting arrows at it and being like, what do I do? Like what the hell do I do? I don't even know where to start. And like the guy in the room with me was like, yeah, good luck, man. And it was just like I was like, I don't know anything here. And the voice of Dormin gives you clues as you're going through it, but right away I got this sense, which was crazy, where I love Godzilla. I'm a big kaiju guy. I'm a big kaiju guy. Like huge, huge, huge. I'll go see any film in theaters that's a Godzilla film just for the spectacle, or monster film that's huge, except for King Kong.
oh. Anyway,
Anyway. And I had this feeling when I got deeper into the game. This is kind of scratching the Zelda itch. So when I read on the development side that they were inspired by Zelda and Godzilla, I was like, whoa, like this is me. Like this is me. This is like two of my favorite things. But a big moment for me was also like I kept falling in love with the beauty of the game. Like I got deeper and deeper and deeper, and probably by the second or third Colossus, when I'm just riding through the valleys and I'm holding my blade up and there's this mythical light coming off of it, I was like, this is like everything I've ever wanted from a game. And I really feel, and because it's such a minimalist story, you're so invested in it because honestly, the first time I really fell in love was that I was such a hopeless romantic growing up. Like hopeless romantic. So at first when you laid down the body of Mono and like I couldn't get the narrative of this being like the love of my life out of my head and that like I need to bring her back. So it had me from there. Like it had me from this whole story of Wander just and like between you killing the Colossus, like they show these beautiful images of Mono, like the cloak getting ripped off of her and her dress waving in the wind, and you just are always so hopeful that maybe she'll flicker an eyelash or maybe she'll move or maybe she'll do something. And I was so invested in this, like honestly there's this feeling after like the fourth or the fifth one or even the third one where like my heart was breaking, but as crazy as it sounds, not for the Colossi, but for this romance I can't get through. I was so I was convinced that Dormin could give me my love back and that I would be willing to kill anything, that I ignored the fact that there was this innocence to the Colossi, that every single one was like not really attacking me. Like they're not really attacking you. They're just flying around or roving their little areas and you're instigating. You're the one who's going after them like a freaking hunter. But I was so love struck and so engaged with this like romantic aspect of the video game that I couldn't see that. All I cared about was taking these blackened tentacles out of each Colossus to get back to Mono and save her and bring her back to life, because like I still feel this only one other time have I felt this way in a game, or maybe once or twice, where like I felt like almost like love heartbroken. And the other time was in Witcher 3 when, because I went for what's her face, who's the
Yen?
I went for Yen. So when in Witcher 3 when you go to that magical night with Triss and she like falls into your arms and she tries to kiss you, and like and you have to, and I had to say no to her. I felt that same like my heart was twisting, and I felt that way every time I came back because Mana was never moving, and like Wander's going up to her and like brushing her hair away, and even Agro, your horse, is like, bro, like we can get this girl back, like let's do it, like I love her too, like this is our girl, like, and I was so entranced by that I just wasn't paying attention. But like the moment where I said, wow, this game is gonna be with me until the day I die was definitely probably also the bird, but like, you know, from the bird onwards, the third or fourth Colossus, right? The third or fourth Colossi is the bird, because I think it goes The fifth is the bird? Damn.
Yeah.
What's the third?
Third is the one right behind you.
Right. This one was the one where I was like, this one for sure was the one where I was like, the biggest, was the first big puzzle for me, because you really have to use the terrain to get by this one. Because you think, I for a long time thought you're on this floating platform. You also come to this lake with this floating platform, this island in the sky. And Dormeen even tells you, like, you're going to go to this island in the sky and you're going to find this Colossus. And you run up it, and like, you're just getting a handle on the mechanics, really, to be honest. And this giant Colossus has this stone sword that it's swinging at you, and you're like, how do I get up this? Like, even if you can get up the sword, which I did a couple times, you're blocked. So you're like, what do I do? And then you realize that there's something about the environment that can help you actually shatter this Colossus's armor. And from there, you have to get on the sword, which is still a hard fucking task in its own right. Getting up this freaking sword, which is like, even after it strikes you, it hits down, and you have to run up the sword fast and grab onto the hair fast. Or you need to grab onto the sword fast.
I never broke any of his armor. I just did the run up the sword and like Hail Married it onto him.
Are you serious? So what happens is, you're supposed to get him to hit the middle of the island where the stone is, and it shatters his armor. So you can run up the sword and grab onto the hair. See what's crazy? You didn't even know.
Both times I never did that. That's crazy.
Yeah, well,
because there is a boss like that. There's another boss where he has a big sword, and you have to get him to hit somewhere so that his armor shatters. It's not this guy.
Yeah. But this is that. But that's like, there's a couple moments where you have to do something along those lines, right? Mm-hmm. Like even the one in the temple, the first little Colossus you fight, where it's like you have to kind of shoo him off the edge so you break the armor off his back and then get onto him, right? Like that one was a puzzle in its own right. Some of these ones where you had to break armor were the craziest puzzles to me. That and the turtle were the craziest puzzles to me.
Is the turtle the one where you got to hit him on the head to like make him move a certain direction?
No, that's the one in the lake, which I guess you could call a turtle. The turtle's the one of the geysers where you go to the dead ashlands. And like, and these, you have to get him to go under the geyser. So you kind of, first off, it doesn't even flip him upside down, which I thought it would. It just flips his leg up so you could shoot his leg to knock him over first, like, which is crazy. Like the challenges, the puzzles are so crazy to me. But all this to say, before we get into like the nitty gritty of fighting the Colossi, I felt that this was about the 4, 5, 6, 7 in, deeper I got in, I realized this game isn't just a game, it's a journey into yourself. Because the amount of patience you have to learn to get through this game and deploy. This is not you jump in and shoot everything. Like, this is like you're in an area for 40 minutes to an hour. Non-Elden Ring style, like nothing's like massively attacking you the whole time and you're trying to learn how to dodge it. You could be alive for 30 to 40 minutes just trying to figure out how the hell you get up this thing. And then you get up there and maybe you don't have enough stamina to survive the ride, right? Like maybe you get up to number 3 here and you run halfway up the blade and you keep trying to figure out and your Hail Mary goes wrong every time. You just keep losing more and more and more life, right? It's not easy, and it's a journey into patience. I'd argue that this game, I played it when I was 18 or 17 years old. So I played it about 2008, 2009, so it's still pretty fresh. Like, it really was the first game that taught me patience. Like, I really learned patience from this game, and I realized that it was rewarded by more and more beautiful experiences. And, like, it truly was this journey into myself, that by the end of it, I felt like I wasn't just unraveling a game. And maybe it's because I wasn't so paying attention to the Colossi and, like, how innocent they were. I was trying to go on this journey of, like, of this patient reward. Will I actually unleash my love? Where I was like, I've truly journeyed into myself with this game.
This game made me hate myself.
What? Because you're killing all the Colossi, I know.
Because you are the hunter. Like,
yeah, you are.
You made a good point earlier of, like, anytime you come up to them, I think there's like 2 exceptions.
There are 2 exceptions,
They're not antagonizing you. They're going about their business. They're existing. They don't want anything to do with you.
But those 2 or 3 exceptions came at the right times for me, where they were like, where they were enough to keep me blind to the deeper story. To me,
They're all in the
personally.
back half, though. They're all in the back half.
Yeah, but that's kind of when I started cluing in what this game was, and I wasn't really paying attention. I just was so awestruck by the size of this game and the size of all the
Yeah.
monsters that by the time the awestruckness sort of came off of me, like they were being aggressive enough with me, like the freaking the like one of my favorite ones, the like centipede-esque creature in the Colosseum. Like that to me, it's shooting at you. You don't need to motivate it. It'll just shoot gas at you. It's one of those ones that's just hostile. And it's pretty early on.
I don't remember that one because I remember like looking down at that one and shooting an arrow at it to piss it off to get it to come up so that I could then knock it off.
Maybe you're right.
I don't remember that one just being antagonistic from the start. There's
Maybe I did.
the three that I'm thinking of. It's the two bulls
Yeah.
and then the second last one.
And the last one.
Well, yeah, sure. So four.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last one for sure wants to kill you.
In a way, the fish a little bit, just because it thinks you're food. Like it keeps coming up to try and eat you. But I mean, it's only because it's kind of because of its nature that you even get hurt because of its shock tentacles on the back or whatever, right? Man, the way you talk about this game, like this game is like if you like anime, freaking kanji, like or kaiju, like this is a game for you, man. Like this is crazy. Like the way we're talking about this, like what are we talking about right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Can we give a shout out to Aggro real quick?
Aggro's the greatest horse to me of any video game of all time. I wrote probably, right?
Torrent from Elden Ring is still my number one. I think this guy's number two. And so every boss arena, with a couple of exceptions, so okay, the majority, block out Aggro. He's not coming in. So you got to ditch him. You got to get in there, deal with the Colossus. The black tentacles get you, and you get teleported back. Every single time that freaking horse shows back up at the temple and is there for you. Yeah, every time.
I know.
And if you don't have your sword or your bow equipped, and you better have been doing this all game, Mike, or I'm going to be very disappointed with you. You could pet Aggro. You tell him, good horse. Every single time he showed up, I was like, oh.
I don't think I did it in this playthrough because I was just going through it, but like I remember in the first one, I spent a lot more time just exploring with him. I know, but this one was like so. I was so like I knew too much of the mechanics that I was trying to get into the deeper game of how can I get so much stamina and how can I get so much like what sort of like for example, one of the things I never found still, which is crazy to me, is that there's something like 113 gold coins throughout the entire game. I didn't find a single
I don't
one.
believe that there's gold coins. I don't believe that.
They're flickering little gold coins, and when you find them all, you get this is what I'm talking about. These are these freaking.
Is that only in the remaster or was that in the PS2?
No, I think that's only in the remaster.
Okay.
I don't remember what you get for them, but I don't even remember if I wrote this down. But you find these gold coins, and you get a reward at the end, which I think is a new blade. I think it's like the ultimate blade, like the blade of Dormine or something like that. And you get this epic blade, and it only happens if you collect all the coins. You get a secret sword, yeah. So I think the Sword of Dormine, which is like the ultimate sword in the game, they say. That and the Queen's Sword.
It's not something I want to do in this game is go on a collectathon.
No, and that's why I think this game is a sort of one or two and done where like I will come back to it and play it on hard mode in maybe a year. Or maybe I have a week off of work or I'm between contracts and I need some re-inspiration. I need to dive into myself. Like I definitely want to play this on hard mode. Not with the secret weapons, but just with my base arrow and fucking sword. Like I don't need extra weapons. That in itself is a challenge. And what's interesting is I guess there was somewhere along the development path of this game, like after Team Eco knew they were going to be getting a second game, they talked about this idea that they were concurrently making two games, and one was kind of centered around girls, not to kick back to 2008 in the binary world of the non-binary world of today, but like the back then was like they wanted a game that's like for men, kind of about learning how to be men. And another one about like more for girls and like kind of trying to take a journey through that. Now, the concurring games didn't necessarily come to fruition, but the fledgling of the man's game, or the journey of manhood, if you will, was what ended up transferring to Shadow of the Colossus. So I'm not surprised that I found that journey of the soul through the game. But I'm sure Eco is the same way, that I did find it like a journey of the soul. And it was one of the few times a game made me feel like I was growing as a human as I was playing it.
I never played Eco, so I can't
Me
comment
neither.
on
Me
that.
neither.
But yeah,
I mean,
I do
Shadow.
like Shadow is a prequel to Eco.
Debatable, but okay, debatable.
It's not debatable.
I know, but that's anyways. Go on, go on.
We'll get there.
Yeah,
But yeah, in terms of having played games for, we'll say, 15 years or more up to this point, I don't think any of them made me introspective, except for until this one.
it's
And like I
crazy.
said, I felt like shit every time. Even this time, replaying it, I feel like shit playing this game.
Yeah, this time I felt that. This time I felt that. This time
Like
the romance was gone.
I I'm fully on board with it. Seems to be for love for whatever reason. If is it, like you said, a sister, a wife, a princess, whatever. Clearly, Wander cares deeply about Mono, and he is willing to sacrifice whatever he needs to get her back. I
Yeah,
get that. I'm on board with that. I think anybody who's been in love will be on board with that.
yeah,
But there, like the 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 music in this game also does such an amazing job of when you're fighting these things, it's epic, and you have this incredible orchestral score along with it every single time, and it swells as you're hanging on to these things and they're trying to shake you off, and then you kill them, and that score is miserable.
it's
It
true.
is heartbreaking, gut wrenching, just oh my god, sad. And the composer's name is Kao Otani. Full marks to him. This guy used music like a freaking surgical
Yeah,
weapon in
yeah,
this game. It was incredible. So yeah, you have that introduction with Wander and Mono, and you're feeling this, but that like feeling of sadness and melancholy just becomes so pervasive the longer you play and the more you're exposed to this just like awfulness at the end of every single one of these battles.
Oh, and Wander's
I can,
becoming corrupt. Like he is becoming paler and darker veins, and like he looks like
yeah.
he's dead. He looks like he's one of the turning into one of these shadows that you're surrounded by every time you come back. And
Yeah. So around the halfway point when you've taken down 8 of them, it's I guess our second big piece of story. You start seeing another group, riding towards the temple, and there's a big pause between you coming back to the temple, and when you finally do, you get up and it's a close up, and like you said, like Wander's starting to look bad. Like it's not like, and I think that's supposed to give you the sense of he's not just getting magically teleported back to the temple. Something is like there's pieces of something corrupting him every single time you kill one of these things. It's not a good thing that's happening. Something bad is happening to you every single time. And the fact that they give you the option after you kill a Colossus, like you have control. You can try to run. You'll never get away, but you can try to run.
yeah,
If it was a good thing, why would they let you try to get away from it, right? There's lots of these just little clues that are there that are not just being told to you and shoved down your throat. I
and
think
what?
it's part of how like the beautiful minimalist storytelling of this universe
So why don't you tell
or of this
people
game.
now what the secret they're alluding to is?
Do you want to go right to the ending?
Why not? We'll go. We're on a good tangent here. You introduced
All right.
the priest, and then we'll go back and talk about some of our favorite fights and stuff like that. So why don't we get
Sure,
into
sure.
the deep shit?
Sure. So, halfway point comes and goes. You're taking down more of these colossi. And then you get to the last one, which I will say as a quick note, I wish there was more colossi like the last one.
Yeah,
Because that one is it's absolutely massive, but the scaling of it I think is better than any of them. Because it
yeah.
really is it's almost like a moving castle. And climbing that and how big it is and how long it takes was such an incredible like last boss. It was really really
Did you
good.
fall
It
off?
made uh yeah, once because
Yeah, me
I
too.
messed it up.
Yeah,
I
me
messed
too.
it up.
And it's a far fall. It's a
Yeah, it's a
far
big
freaking
fall.
fall.
It's a big fall. And maybe if they had done more like that, it would have taken away from the value of having that one right at the end. I don't know. I would have liked to have maybe seen one or two more like that. Anyway, you take down the last one. So you finally you've held up your end of the bargain with Dorman. And when you come back, like you look like a ghost. You are a zombie. Like you are just it's bad. And this priest and his crew are there and they start admonishing you because you're in a forbidden land, you don't know what you're doing. Essentially, Dorman is was it ambivalent? Is that the right word?
Yes.
He's not good. He's an
Yeah, he's
evil
a
spirit.
demon.
Yeah, he's a
He's evil's
demon,
evil spirit.
and
Yeah.
by killing all of these colossi, you've freed him. And all of those tentacles, every time you were killing a colossus, were pieces of him that were possessing you. And then now the 16th and final piece is in you. Dorman uses you as a host and becomes this massive demon that you then control, which I never expected. And you're trying to swat away at the priests and the guards to stop them from sealing you in the temple forever. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like
Yeah.
you were Wander is kind of the bad guy. You're not the good guy.
Yeah. And I mean, and on top of that, then what happens is the priest does commit a ritual to sort of trap Dorman inside and or eradicate Dorman, whatever you want to translate it as. And then comes the one piece of the puzzle that is the only thing that makes this game not perfect for me. And that's
Oh,
the eco tie-in. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
why?
It's so stupid. You couldn't have just keep. It was such a good standalone game. You didn't have to do it. You didn't have to do it. You didn't have to do it. You didn't have to.
I didn't mind. I didn't mind. So what happens is, and there is some good. It is kind of a happy ending, right?
Yeah,
So
it is.
the priest performs the ritual. They ride away as the only bridge to the temple and into this land collapses behind them. And he's like, "Okay, you're sealed away forever." And then Mono wakes up, and you're like, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
she's gonna be." You're relieved because hey, maybe Dorman wasn't 100% evil. He held up his end of the deal. I think he's still evil all the way, but anyway, he held up his end of the deal. So, but it's bittersweet because your guys, Wander's sealed away or dead. Mono's back. She has nowhere to go except for this land by herself. But then, who shows up, Mike? Who shows up? Who
Agro.
shows up back at the
Agro.
temple?
Agro.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you
Because
think he dies.
you think he died. Leading up to the 16th one, the bridge you're riding across collapses and Aggro heroically throws you off his back and then falls into a pit.
Yeah.
Which was heartbreaking the first
Yes.
time.
Yes.
That was absolutely heartbreaking thinking that Aggro died. And then, watching the credits and seeing him limp back into the temple with his one bad back leg, I was like, oh,
Thank you.
like I was so happy and grateful for that. So she's not alone. And then there's a child with the two little horns, which is what the kid from Eco has, which is why people say it's tied in. I think you could take it or leave it. It doesn't necessarily have to be.
Well, and so the people take it even further because in Eco, the concept is just about a boy meets a girl, and it's about Eco's about to get sacrificed, and he saves a woman, a princess named Yorda, from a queen in a tower. And a lot of people say that either the queen is Mono, or that Yorda is Mono, and so there's even deeper ties where they wanted to tie it in. But I just don't like. It's always been a big thing of mine when you have a great story and it stood alone on its own. Why? Why do you need it? Why? Why take away the simplicity of a standalone? Like a beauty of a standalone. Like honestly, even if you wanted to have it reborn as a child, like just have it reborn without the eco horns. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It kills me. It kills me because this isn't just here. It's like when I see a standalone movie and then at the end they have to throw in a fucking Marvel character just to be like, oh, by the way, it's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Maybe I'm a byproduct and a symptom of that now because that's gotten so intense in our day and age.
Yeah, maybe it's just because every movie is a Marvel movie, but I don't know. That never bothered me. I guess especially having not played Eco, I just thought it was a nice ending for her to not have to be alone. Like she has somebody to love and care for.
Yeah, sure.
And to me, the way I interpreted it is it's Wander. He's been reborn.
Sure. Me too.
Sorry?
Me too.
Yeah, and he has the devil horns because I guess Dorman's a part of him, but he has a chance to be innocent again. So to me, it's still a happy ending. It kind of ends on a bit of a question mark because the last thing you see is one of the eagles flying away, and at first it's like a beautiful sunrise, but then it flies into a storm. So it's a bit of a weird ending in that way, but I still felt more hopeful at the end of that than sad. Other than feeling like a piece of shit for killing all the Colossus
Yeah, I
or
mean,
Colossi.
I mean, at the end of the day, no matter how I spin it, this second playthrough I felt dirtier. Like I did, like the first, because the first playthrough was like I was just so fixated on like I felt heartbroken because I wasn't getting back Mono, and like I would do anything for her and kill anything for her. But the second playthrough I did feel a lot more dirty. Like I felt like wow, I'm getting filthy. Like at this point, I'm just a murderer, and I know I'm a murderer, and I'm still going on a rampage of murdering. Like it's true, but it's just like I'm just on a rampage now, murdering. Although the last Colossi, Colossi, it does do a good job making that guy feel real threatening. That last one is very threatening because it doesn't
Oh yeah.
pull any punches. You're like you have to get through a maze of blasts, like a freaking use all the terrain. You get to it, it looks menacing as all hell. It's trying to crush you while you're on it, and you kind of got to use it to like jump from hand to hand and get it to touch other parts of itself just to even get down to it. And then like you're hanging on for dear life, and it takes a few get down, regain stamina, get back up to its head, runs up to kind of get it.
It's that one's really crazy.
Yeah.
It's really big, it's really epic, and it's for a finale they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
So the ending is the only thing that stops this game from being perfect for you.
It was just like it's always just the like it is a perfect game to me. It's just like there's just a sour note at the end, you know.
Yeah, wow.
It's just a sour note at the end. Yeah, to me this is minimalism and what I'm looking for in like a unique, simple story, a story that anyone can access. You know, no matter what, because it's just a story about you trying to save love. You know what I mean? And there, as long as you can suspend your disbelief of who you are, because they don't really even say Wander's name. They don't say it once. You're just this character
No.
trying to save
Yeah.
this princess. And so if you can get behind that, or that's all you really need, right? And so to me, this simplicity of the story, the uniqueness of the gameplay, and the diving through it, like I really love this game. Yeah, this is like top 5, top 10 for me.
I really love it too. I'm not trying to take away from that or give any sort of impression that this game is not in my, I'll say, top 10 games of all time.
But
I think it's not, there's no but. I just think it's far from perfect. I think it's far from perfect.
why don't we get some negatives though? Because to me, the eco tie-in and the ending is the only thing I don't really like.
The camera and the controls are absolute dog shit. You can't argue that.
They are better on the remaster.
Okay, on PS2,
Smoother.
boy, like
Oh, I remember.
his run animation, it looks like he's made of like silly putty, and just all of his legs are like. I've never seen a more exaggerated, goofy run in my entire life, and the way he moves, it's really stiff and awkward, while at the same time, just like there's like limbs going freaking everywhere, so it's kind of comical. And then, other than that, like okay, it's a PS2 game, fine. The controls are not perfect. The camera for every game from the PS2 era is an issue. I think we still struggle with that in games to this day. The two, I think they were both bulls, or one was like a bull and one was a tiger or something. Okay, cool kind of puzzle, especially the tiger one where you're in that arena and it's chasing you, knocking down columns, and you're jumping from column to column as it's falling. It's a cool idea. I don't want to fight something. It did like I don't want to fight something that I could see at the zoo. You know, I want to fight a giant mythical creature. And to have to do that twice in the I think in the second half was like, you know.
You want to hear something crazy?
Go
That
for it.
tiger in that Lost City, probably my top 3 fights.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
Yeah. I loved it. I loved the whole environment they bring you into, because they bring you into this ancient city. I could get really behind it. The first time, I couldn't really figure out the puzzle easily, and then it accidentally knocked something down. I remember going up, and then it accidentally knocked down the pillar that kind of goes on to the next one. I was like, okay. And now there's more pillars. I need to do this all the way through to get to the end.
Yeah.
I'm sure something will happen that'll knock its armor off or something along those lines, right? I was
Yeah,
like, cool,
yeah.
I can get behind this. But Like the first time I was like fighting it in this ancient city, like trying to figure it out. It was just so freaking epic, man. The first one I agreed. The first bowl is kind of bleh.
Yeah, where you just wave the fire in its face
Yeah,
and it falls off. It's
yeah.
like whatever. And I prefaced the tiger one. I'm calling it that. I don't know if it is that,
Sure,
but
we'll go
that's
with
what we're
it.
going to
We'll go
refer
with it.
to it. The tiger in the lost city. I preface it by saying the arena and the puzzle itself are cool. I just I want to in like we there's three different versions of the first Colossus you fight. There's the first one. I forget when you fight him again, but that's the one that has the club with the armor you have to break. And then there's the second last one, which is another one of the aggressive ones that is in a really cool arena.
Yeah, the ape one, the monkey one.
Yeah, those all three of those are kind of like apes. You could argue it's like a minotaur, maybe, but essentially they're apes.
You're not
I
talking
would
about the
say.
club one, the guy with the beard, are you? The one that has to crash through the walls and you have to climb up his beard?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. I got you. I got you. And I'd
Yeah.
even
So
argue number three is kind of on that same iteration a little bit.
in
Variation on a
terms of
theme.
like being a bipedal giant monster thing,
Sure,
like
sure,
yeah.
sure, sure.
But
Sure,
those three specifically, the one with the beard, the ape at the end, and the first one are very, very similar.
sure.
So there's arenas and colossi that were cut, which were different. So to me, it's like why keep the ones that are samey, and then why have these little ones when you have these other colossi that are different in new arenas in reserve? Like why were those cut and why were these ones kept? So that's just it's not like deal breaking or making me think this game is the worst of all time. It's just wish list kind of stuff,
Sure, sure.
you know?
And I mean, I would have loved to see like an extended edition where they released more or something like that. That would have been great. Like, especially if they
Yeah.
had them designed. Because when they were designing this, like, I know there's the capacity to re-render them because they said this was, instead of doing everything on like pen and paper for design work, they're actually modeling everything as 3D models when they were coming up at the conceptual level. So,
Oh,
like,
cool.
they had everything kind of already moving and feeling it out as they're trying to bring it to life. So, like, I would have loved to see like an extended version with like all of that stuff. But
What are the other two in your top three?
um the bird. We talked about the bird, but the number one for me for sure. Well, it's like a, let's call it like a flexible four because number 3/4 is the bird or the centipede in the Colosseum because the centipede in the Colosseum is freaking epic because you go underground, you come across this arched Roman-esque Colosseum underground, and there's a centipede,
Oh,
and
really?
it climbs up the wall, shooting at you, and like you have to hit its legs off, and you need to get down there fast while it's still on its back to like stab it. So I remember just diving. Like I remember just being
Yeah.
like, "Screw how much
Yeah.
health I lose, I'm just diving off this thing. And it's gonna be epic." So that was always amazing. The Lost City bull or tiger was really fun for me just because of the scale of it. Two was probably like the bird is on there, and the number one for me though, uncontestably, is the giant sandworm that flies in the sky. Because that one is like you have to use like you come across this vast desert, like no nothing. You come to this crumbled temple, and this giant snake flies into the sky. You have to, pardon me, you have to use aggro the whole time, chase it down, shoot its sacks, get it closer to the earth, and then jump on it. Like
Off
onto
of
one of its,
aggro.
off of aggro onto one of its
Yeah.
wings, and then climb this dragon in the sky. And it, no matter what, will go under the sand to kick you off. So you're forced to do it at least 2 or 3 times minimum.
Three times.
3 times
Three
minimum,
times.
minimum, because it doesn't even give you a chance to do that, and that's crazy. Like I love that it. I love that it does that. Right. The only other one that kind of did that was the underwater fish. Right.
Yeah.
That forced you to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about yourself?
So-
What are your top three?
Our list is pretty damn similar. I mean, experientially, emotionally, the bird. Nothing can top that moment for me. It might be one of my favorite moments in any video game ever. A battle, the sandworm or whatever that thing is, the one you just described,
Yeah, the flying
that
one.
flies, and yeah, you have to shoot its sacs so that it falls down like the air sacs and jump off of aggro. That's the best fight in the game, in my opinion. That
Yeah.
one's incredible.
Yeah.
And then I think the last one's probably, I'd say, is up there for me. I've already said I'm not a big fan of the smaller ones. The So I don't think you know this about me, but like I'm very comfortable like swimming in pools, oceans, whatever. But water levels in like 3D games where there's enemies, it scares the shit out of me. Ever since I think it was the first Half-Life where there's a you have to go in the water and these like mutated shark things come at you.
Yeah,
It
I
scared the
remember.
crap out of me as a kid. Ever since then, it's just been like trauma trigger or whatever you want to call it. So that the water boss was real scary for me because that thing comes at you, right?
Yeah, it
Like
does.
it's coming at you, and
It
that was
does.
terrifying.
Well, and on top
So
of that too, it is that unknown. It's so dark, and all you see is these little
mhm.
lights like flickering under the water, and you're like, "Oh, how do I get this? Is it going to eat me? Is it coming up at me?" It's like it doesn't.
Yeah,
There's no
and
yielding.
then
There's no yielding.
and as once it starts getting close, you see the eyes and the mouth, and it's just like holy shit. So for a PS2 game to be able to terrify me is great. The other one I like is it's kind of like the flying sandworm, but it never does fly. You're in a it's I think it's a massive cave,
Yep.
and this thing just comes above the surface like this, and you can just see its eyes, and you're again running on aggro like full speed as this thing is coming after you, and you have to while you're riding forward, turn around backwards, shoot it with a bow, so that get it one of its eyes, so that it runs into something, and then you can jump on it when it's like sort of dizzy and get a couple hits in before you have to do that a couple more times. That was another really epic one.
And that one was like the first real skill check with aggro too, because that one is like,
Hmm.
that's the one where you're like, you can get that one wrong, and it can freaking it gets you. If
Yeah,
you deviate and you're not fast enough, like it gets you, and all you see is these eyes coming at you, right? So you got to also
yeah.
turn around backwards on horseback with bow and arrow, and get it, and you got to hope you know how to control aggro at that point. If you don't, you are screwed. You
The
screwed.
the second last one, I was getting so mad because I think
Okay.
that's one of the ones that it can take you the longest, but also is one of the longer ones. But it's in a really cool arena, right? You're
Yeah.
in this thing, it's on both sides, and there's a platform that you can't quite reach, and this thing is mad at you right from the get-go.
Yeah.
So, this one I didn't, this one specifically, when I took it out, I was like, fuck you. Like, I don't feel bad about killing you at all, you piece of shit. But anyway, so you can't quite reach, and it starts coming close to you, and then, you notice when it stamps its foot, the platform lifts on
Rises.
one side so that you can get to it. So okay, you figure that part out, and then you climb up a couple levels, but then you can't get up again, and then all of a sudden this thing starts smashing the wall because it's really pissed because it can't get at you, and then some blocks fall, and then you can climb to another level, and then there's a bridge, and it's got to smash the bridge so that you can then jump on it. And this one, I think, probably out of every single boss, even more so than the last one, will shake like a motherfucker more than any of them, like minutes at a time. And I for that reason, even with my crazy stamina bar, this guy I had to get on him I think 3 or 4 times. It was crazy. And then it's not like I didn't know what to do, right? Because I'm getting onto him and I'm getting his weak points or whatever. And then because I was taking so long, freaking Dorman's voice kept coming on. Oh, you need to get to higher ground. And I was like, shut the fuck up, Dorman. Like, I know what I'm doing. Shut the hell up. And he just kept like every 10 minutes like chiming in. And I was like, oh,
Yeah, it's like that buddy watching you game being like, "Hey, you want me to just tell you what to do?" Like, and you're like, "Shut up! I got
yeah,
this. Like,
shut
I
up.
know what I'm doing. Okay, I get that you've beaten this. Okay." I know, and Dorman,
Yeah.
of course, is teaching you the secrets because he wants you to unleash his soul. And that one's cool too because even at the end, like you said, you have to knock off its club or whatever it has, and then you have to jump on its hand in the end, and then get
Yeah,
that as
on
the
the
last,
inside.
yeah, on the last vital
Yeah.
point. Yeah, I love
Because
that.
he smashes down and you're trying to figure out what to do because the one on his back and his head is gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, where the hell is it? And then he smashes his hand on the ground. You see that little glint and you're like, oh, huh. And you don't have a lot of time to get there and get that last stab in because then he starts doing this.
Big time. But you know what?
Yeah.
All of them have but the thing is, there's not a besides my most frustrating one is probably the same as yours. It was the bull in the temple with the fire. That one is frustrating because if once you knock off its armor, you have to use fire to like get it off the cliff, and you knock off its armor and you try to jump on its back, and if you miss, you're on this valley with this thing, and there's no way to really get on its back, and it just keeps charging you, and it just gets annoying because it just keeps flailing you down onto your freaking ass, and it's not the best enjoyable. And I still enjoy the experience because the setting, but like all the other two that we haven't even mentioned, the two sort of Brontosaurus ones, one in the water where you have to hit its teeth on its head to get it to the temples and get it to rise up and get on its belly,
Yeah.
and the other one
That's
that
probably my favorite, second favorite intro is that one
really,
rising out of the water. Yeah, I thought
oh
that one was
yeah,
really spectacular.
yeah.
The fight itself, not so amazing, but the entrance was incredible.
Yeah, that could have been early game, and you could have convinced me that's okay. That fight, and the other one
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
other Brontosaurus one where it has to peek its head underneath, and you kind of like grab on its tail when it's looking down, and you jump up. But like those two to me were the most peaceful ones, probably. Like those two Brontosaurus-y ones were the most peaceful ones, where I was like, should I be killing these things? Like these things aren't really coming after me. I was like, they're just kind of vibing. Well, I mean, the one in the water does try to blast you with lasers.
It's just it's an electric eel, I think. And other than it trying to eat you once you piss it off, I don't think it's just swimming around.
I
It
don't mean that
happens to
one.
be
I mean,
electrifying.
the Brontosaurus one where you have to hit the teeth on its head.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That one's
Yeah,
trying
he's
to
just
shoot
chilling.
you. Yeah, he's just chilling. But he does try to
Until
shoot
you
you with
get-
an electric blast.
Yeah. So I'll say the other, I don't know if it's a critique. Like it has to be at the end of the day, it still has to be a game, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that the second time around I couldn't help asking myself, especially like with the one that's behind you or any of the ones that have hands and are standing up, like if you're climbing up its chest or the one that you mentioned that has a beard, like you jump onto its beard and it just starts shaking its head. All it has to do is like do one of these, like grab its beard and like you're gone. And they never like pat their chest or anything like that. Like these really obvious solutions to this little dude crawling around them. Like, if you had a bug on your face, would you just shake your head, Mike? Like, no, you'd be like, boom, you slap yourself. So, but obviously, again, like it has to be a game. There has to be some sort of concession made to make it so that our little wander can take down these giant mythical creatures.
It's true.
So, and I think the first time you play this, you're never going to have that thought because you're just going to be going, whoa,
Yeah, what the
bewildered
hell?
the whole time.
Yeah.
That gripe is a luxury of a repeat playthrough.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it'll be lost on me even when I play it on hard because there's so many more vital points and such a tougher challenge, right? But yeah, I don't know, man. That's a lot. We just talked about every Colossi. Do you have any closing words on this game or anything?
That I haven't said already. I don't. If you just need like an experience, this is just it's. You know how like people will say you should go skydiving or I don't know ride a horse or just these are like crazy life experiences that this is one you can do like pretty cheaply and I think is up there. It might sound ridiculous because it's a video game that you'll play for like 5 or 6 hours, but I really feel like this is an experience, and there's not anything else like it. A couple I've tried. There's something called like Pray to the Gods, but they added like survival and crafting, and it got like a 6 out of 10 on most places. It doesn't come close. There's something really magical about playing this game for the first time and then the second time however many years later. I can't recommend it enough. I love it. There's a reason we're talking about it. It might not have come through in what we're saying, but if you pick up that controller and you just sit there and let yourself experience this, I have a hard time believing anyone would be disappointed or not be changed in some way.
Well said. And you can actually go skydiving and horseback riding in this game.
That's true. Maybe that's why I thought of those two things.
Yeah, but I mean,
But as the man who introduced me to this, I guess who in some way changed my life, Mike. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
I mean, you said it for the most part. The only thing I'd add is just like, I guess to quote the game, this is, if you're looking for a game that is art, this is it. Like, this is an experience. This isn't just a game, master it's not a shooter you just get into, figure out the mechanics and figure out the pattern and get better and better at it. This is like an experience. Experience it. Let it be an artwork, a form of artwork. Don't feel you need to play this on the hardest difficulty. Play this on the easiest difficulty and just take the ride, like enjoy the artwork, especially on the remaster. Like you don't get the wobbly, flubby Wander. You get they tighten him up, and honestly, the remaster is absolutely stunning. So enjoy this piece of art.
And if I could say one thing, if anybody does choose to play this now for the first time, don't look up the solutions. Just try. Give
Yeah,
try to figure it out because figuring out how to conquer each of these, it's a really rewarding experience. And I think if you just, try it a couple times, you're like, oh, F this, and you look it up, you're really robbing yourself of, a big part of this experience.
or if you're playing it because we convinced you, then just remember that we gave you every solution pretty much, and it's laying somewhere dormant in the back of your consciousness, and that's all. That's it. But I mean, Steve, beyond just Shadow of the Colossus, we made it.
We did it, man. Yeah.
Season 1.
I'm proud of us. I'll be honest, Mike. I thought we'd maybe get through like 2 of these, and then we'd just be like, life. That's it. But we did it. We stuck to it. We made 10 of these. I'm proud of us, man.
Yeah, it took us like a year and a half, but yeah, we made 10 episodes.
Yeah, well, there was some life in there.
Yeah, I mean, and there will be some life too. Even before we get back to season 2, we're gonna, which we've already dissected and we have a rough outline for. We're gonna take a few months to play whatever
I'm
we want
excited.
to play.
I'm excited. But yeah, I did definitely take a little bit of time to play what we want to play. As soon as this playthrough of Shadow was done, I think we were messaging about it, but it was like, oh, there's like a weight that's been lifted. Like I can just play for the sake of playing. Even though I love every single one of these games, with except for Ocarina of Time and apparently Shovel Knight, like playing all of these in no way was a negative experience. Like, yeah, we wanted to do it within a certain amount of time so we could, record the episode and have them coming out. But it's all games that we love for the most part, and having an excuse to go back to them instead of just trying to find that new fix, that new hotness of the games. It was really great. Like I had so much fun re-experiencing all of these. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and we got to talk about Helldivers before it got shit on too.
I still don't agree with anybody shitting on
I
it.
agree. I agree.
That game's so much fun.
It hasn't lost its luster to me. Maybe when you're playing competitive, or you're playing with random teams that aren't your buddies or your friends, like maybe it's got that. But yeah, I'm with you. Like even Prey, which was supposed to be my negative game, I still enjoyed. Like I still enjoyed. I'm glad I played that through once. You know what I mean? So I can say
what's funny?
I don't like it.
What's funny is I was reading an article today about 9 games you can play before some summer sale ends and right before back to school,
God.
and Prey was on that list for $7, and it was just this one paragraph of why it was the best game of all time, and I was reading, I was like, yes, fuck you, Mike.
Yeah, and you know how many paragraphs are written about Zelda Ocarina of Time? Why it's one of the greatest games of all time?
Yeah, that's another mass delusion.
Yeah. Well, look, we're gonna have more games to trash, but honestly, what was actually kind of nice is I think we didn't really have a lot of games in between from the indie game series to the games we didn't like, and we forced each other to play. Like we only had 1 or 2 games if not one game between the indie series and those games we didn't like. So it's nice coming back because I think there were 6 and 7, and then 8 was Helldivers, and then 9 was the indie game. So between 6, 7, and 9, there's a lot of negative emotions coming from one of us. So it's been nice to come back to the love of a game with Shadow of the Colossus. This felt purifying in a sense.
It was, yeah. We've been refreshed and made pure once again.
Yeah.
There's nothing but positivity back here.
Yeah. Because there was a lot of there was always some sort of shitty review with 6, 7, and 9. It's just true. So
I feel like that was pointed at me. I'm sorry.
No. I think
Yeah, I
a
can't help
shitty
these
review
emotions.
on Prey. I didn't trash it as bad. I mean, what did I trash the other day? Where you're like, is this what hatred looks like?
Oh, I don't know. And this is going to be an awkward pause, so we're going to... Oh! No. Wasn't it an Elden Ring boss? Wasn't it an Elden Ring boss?
Yeah, it was all of Mount Gelmir. All of Mount Gelmir.
That's
yeah,
right.
that's right.
You were so
how trash it was. And that's how I had to... Second time I had to quit that game and take a couple month hiatus was Mount Gelmir, yeah. But nevertheless...
But you're back.
I'm back, but it's also probably because I have video game freedom again, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm back on the bus.
Yeah, and I think what you're about to segue into is we're not going to take a crazy long break.
No.
We will be back. I'm again proud of us both for doing this and getting this far and for planning to continue. It's been an absolute joy, even when I'm getting angry.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to be doing this with you, buddy.
Same.
And for the 7 people that listened all the way through, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will be back, we promise. Maybe that's a bad thing, I don't know. But until then, bye.
Bye. And as always, a very special thanks to our Beats master, Aaron Rastovic.
Fantastic.
Great game.
That was a great game. One of the greats.
Great game.